In Sonic 4 Episode Metal, why does Metal Sonic attack the Badniks? Metal Sonic is said to be Dr. Eggman's finest Badnik. He's a shiny blue metal robot with red, piercing evil eyes. Following Metal's defeat in Sonic CD, he is seen lying dead in Stardust Speedway until he's revived by Dr. Eggman. If Metal Sonic is a part of the Eggman Empire and is a Badnik himself, how come in Sonic the Hedgehog 4 Episode 2 the Badniks can attack Metal? Furthermore, why can Metal kill the Badniks? Are we not on the same side now? I mean, it wouldn't be the first time Metal Sonic has betrayed Eggman and the Eggman Empire, but as far as I'm aware, there's no indication of something like that taking place in Sonic 4. In Sonic Prime, why does Sonic say he's never seen a Badnik that's not powered by flickies before? Traditionally, in the classic Sonic games in particular, if you took out a Badnik, usually an animal would come out, such as like a flicky or something like that. So, in the first episode of Sonic Prime, when Sonic defeats Eggman's robots in New York City, the first thing that he says is that he's surprised that the robots don't have flickies, as if he's never seen them before. But, again, this show is considered to be canon, so Sonic's past adventures should be taken into account when having this discussion. In particular, you have to assume that most likely Sonic Heroes has already taken place, given the fact that Shadow the Hedgehog is in Sonic Prime, and based off of the way that he behaves in the show, you would assume that he has his memories back. So that means Sonic Heroes probably took place, Shadow the Hedgehog 2005 probably took place, and the reason why I'm bringing this up is that you fight tons of Eggman robots that aren't powered by flickies in Sonic Heroes. In Sonic 06, everything about the Blue Chaos Emerald does not make sense. During the opening cutscene of Sonic 06, Princess Elise is kidnapped by Dr. Eggman. You'll notice as she's being carried away, she throws a Blue Chaos Emerald towards Sonic. But there's something very interesting about this Blue Chaos Emerald. 10 years ago, you will notice that when Silver traveled into the past, he gave Princess Elise that very same Blue Chaos Emerald. So it's assumed that Princess Elise holds on to this Blue Chaos Emerald for the rest of her life until she meets Sonic. Here's the problem with that. If the princess has been holding on to this Blue Chaos Emerald for over 10 years, how does Sonic go super in Sonic Adventure 1 or Sonic Adventure 2? Sonic Heroes? Sonic 3? Hello? I think you guys get the point. Remember everybody, Sonic 06 is included on the official Sonic timeline, so the events at the end do wipe themselves out, but ultimately we have to account for that missing Blue Chaos Emerald. How does Mephilis the Dark talk? Mephilis is a fan-favorite villain in the Sonic franchise. One of the most notable things that he did was not the fact that he killed Sonic, it's that he's able to talk without a mouth. I mean, look at him. He's saying words, but nothing's moving. This became even more apparent when Sonic Channel released some artwork that showcased Mephilis trying to eat food in Soliana, and if you look at his reflection, it looks pretty cool because you can see his true form. But if you take a look, he looks a little upset because he can't actually eat the food because he doesn't have a mouth. So how can he eat? How can he talk? I don't know. In Sonic Generations, why is Super Sonic not invincible to this projectile? Other than his signature golden glow, one of his most defining characteristics is that he's invincible to most objects. But when you play Sonic Generations and pop into Seaside Hill, something very interesting happens. Our first step is to pop into lovely Seaside Hill. Our second step is to collect 50 rings, which it looks like we did. Step 3 is make it through the level. Step 3 is to make it to this portion of the level where these things are attacking us. And then we're going to go super. And now watch this, guys. Come check this out for a hot second. Look what happens. Hold up. Ready? He gets crushed. And he also loses rings. Is that crazy? Look at that. Is my boy invincible or is he not invincible? In Sonic Heroes, how come the fans make the gliding characters go higher but not the flying characters? So look, in Sonic Heroes, we have the fan right here. If you take the gliding character and do a triangle dive, they go higher. But you know what doesn't really make sense? If we swap over to the flight character,
Leave it to me.
why doesn't this make him fly? Like, you would think that Tails with the, with the flight would be able to go higher as opposed to Knuckles. Maybe there's some aerodynamics going on here, but never really made sense to me. In the beginning of Sonic Riders, why is Team Sonic wearing their Riders outfits? So in the Sonic Riders game, Sonic has these really large boots. He has the glasses plus these little wristbands. It seems like he's made to ride on hoverboards. In the beginning of Sonic Riders, Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles go into the Metal City looking for the Chaos Emerald. But at this point in time, they've never rode Extreme Gear before. So why are they dressed up like they're about to ride Extreme Gear, despite the fact that it seems like this is their first time ever even encountering it? Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games. How can Mario keep up with Sonic? Listen, there's no doubt that Mario's pretty athletic. After all, he is the Jumpman. But listen, without a doubt, Sonic the Hedgehog is the fastest creature in the universe. When Sonic and Mario finally teamed up in the Olympic Games, everyone was super excited. But you have to ask yourself the question, how in a relay race can any of these characters keep up with Sonic? If there's one thing Sonic should be disqualified from, it should be a race. But somehow Mario still finds a way to keep up. In Sonic Unleashed, how does failing this QTE in Rooftop Run kill Sonic? All right, so here we go. We're scaling the tower in Rooftop Run, right? And then look what happens when you fail this QTE. Look, he dies, but he's standing. I can't figure out why he loses a life there considering he falls down like a couple of feet. Not only that, he's standing and walking around, so what gives? In Sonic Unleashed, during the Spagonia nighttime cutscene, why is Amy not affected by Dark Gaia's energy? So, there's a cutscene in Unleashed where everyone just starts randomly dancing in Spagonia. You can see that they're clearly affected by Dark Gaia's nighttime energy. The reason why is because they had those little purple squiggly clouds around them. If you look at Amy though, you'll notice that she's calling out for help, so clearly she's actually sentient and she's not possessed or whatever they are. The main question is, why is Amy not affected but all the other citizens are? If Silver the Hedgehog changes the past, how does he exist in the future? The beginning of Sonic 06 shows Silver the Hedgehog going around the ruins of Crisis City, but there's kind of a big problem with this. In the present day, the world was destroyed, which leads us to believe that the future will be in ruins for 200 years. If the world was destroyed in the present, then how does Silver exist 200 years into the future? Furthermore, if Silver exists within this timeline, if he goes back into the past and changes the fate, how does he also exist within the future? So when Silver has a good future, the reason why he normally comes back is that somehow his future gets ruined, but he kind of like exists outside of the timeline. For example, after the Neo Metal Sonic arc in IDW, he comes back to the future and finds that it's been destroyed by the metal virus. It kind of feels like Silver exists outside of the existing timeline no matter what happens to it, whether it's a bad future or a good future. It's always consistently changing, but one thing's for sure is that Silver remains constant. But at the end of Sonic 06, when they change the timeline, he forgets everything, so this kind of just makes no sense. If there's two endings to Sonic Frontiers, which one is canon? Many people thought the original ending to Sonic Frontiers was kind of lame if you look at the final boss. Our first introduction to Super Sonic in this game is an absolutely iconic boss fight against Giganto, and each successive fight after the first one is pretty awesome with spectacle. So a lot of people were anticipating this grand finale, but when we got this Galactica shooting minigame at the end, most people were pretty disappointed. Now, I wasn't with the developers in the room when they made this decision, but the common assumption is that they may have ran out of budget when planning the end of this game, which is why Sega shocked the world when they teased that we're getting a free alternative campaign that could correct the biggest sin of this game, and that was fixing the ending that a lot of people had issues with, including myself. But in the new campaign, a giant ring portal pops up and says there's a portal to an alternative ending, and thus something completely different happens. We get a brand new form for Sonic, we get hype moments, we get aura, we get yada yada yada. But regardless, there's two different things that happen, so which one is the one that's actually canon? On some level, the end result is kind of the same, but ultimately we do have to pick one. So which one is it? Sonic Frontiers. Why can Sonic fly infinitely while parrying? Sonic Frontiers speedrunners know this all too well. If Sonic jumps up in the air and he holds the parry button, if you've seen my Mythbuster series, you'll notice that he just flies infinitely and he can kind of just sit here and do this forever. Even though he's not super, he can still fly. Why is this? Exactly how old is Sonic? Even in the classic Sonic era, Sonic was regarded to be 15 years old, despite the fact that he's considered to be younger. Hell, there was even one depiction in Sonic Jam where it said classic Sonic was 16 years old. In Sonic Generations, the plot of the game is Sonic celebrating his birthday party, which would indicate that he's at least getting a little bit older. But even after Generations came out, for many years, Sonic Channel listed him as 15 years old, so it really doesn't make any sense at all. Up until just a couple of years ago, they finally addressed this and removed all of the characters' ages, so I think they're actually trying to clean this up. So I guess that mystery is kind of solved, but now we don't actually know how old he is. If I had to guess, he's about 16 and a half, but we'll have to just wait and see when Sega actually comes out and confirm this, or maybe they just never will. How does Amy not recognize Sonic in Sonic Generations? Amy Rose is kind of famous at this point for recognizing hedgehogs that aren't Sonic as Sonic, so I guess you couldn't put this past her. But in Sonic Generations, if you rescue Amy Rose as classic Sonic, this is the dialogue that she says.
You saved me, Sonic. I have always thought that you were cute, but did you get cuter?
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but these two really don't look that similar, especially considering the fact that they have different eye color, different fur color, and classic Sonic is like a foot shorter. She's mistaken pretty much every single character for Sonic, so like I said, I don't think I'd put it past her. Why is Knuckles in Green Hill in Sonic Prime? In Sonic Prime, he calls Green Hill his home, despite the fact that Sonic canonically does not have a home. But you'll notice that Knuckles is just randomly hanging out in Green Hill in this show. While I will admit, there was a certain period of time where they kind of got away from Knuckles being the guardian of the Master Emerald and Angel Island being a central point of the plot. But since Frontiers and like getting a lore council and focusing more on the canon, they've kind of reaffirmed that stance that Knuckles kind of just hangs out on the island and guards the Master Emerald alone. However, Sonic Prime, according to Sega, is considered to be canon, so what exactly is Knuckles doing just chilling in Green Hill? Is Doom-powered Shadow stronger than Super Shadow? So, in Shadow Generations, Shadow gets a brand new form called Doom-powered Shadow. He gets this from Black Doom. The power scaling is a little bit interesting with this form, so basically a base Shadow can beat the Metal Overlord. And what did it take to originally beat the Metal Overlord? It took Super Sonic plus 2 of his friends with some type of super power up, I don't even know what to call that. Plus, a bunch of other characters had to go up against him too. But hold on a second, let's not forget Devil Doom. In Shadow 2005, it took a full-blown Super Shadow to take him down. In Shadow Generations, with just the Doom power-up, he's able to defeat Devil Doom, so he doesn't even have to go super. And let's take it a step further. Devil Doom transforms into Neo Devil Doom, which presumably is even stronger, and he's still defeated by Doom-powered Shadow. So would that make him stronger than Super Shadow? In Sonic 06, why can Amy Rose turn invisible? So in 06, Amy has the ability to turn invisible. The only problem with this is that she could never do this again in any other Sonic game. Given the fact that 06 was technically erased from the timeline and she can't do this in any other game, does that mean that she doesn't actually have the ability to go invisible? In Sonic Prime, why does Sonic not recognize a robotic version of himself? So instead of the traditional Metal Sonic, in Prime, we see this new version of a robotic Sonic called Chaos Sonic. Except this quote-unquote Metal Sonic is actually extremely powerful because he's powered up by the Paradox Prism. He's also kind of annoying. He's like Prime Sonic, but turned up to like 1,000 levels. When Chaos Sonic reveals himself in the show, Sonic goes, "Is that a knockoff me?" acting like he's never seen a robotic version of himself before, despite the fact that he's modern Sonic. At this point, he's had several battles and run-ins with Metal Sonic, so it's just a little bit odd. Which path in Shadow the Hedgehog is considered to be canon? Did you know that in the hit 2005 video game Shadow the Hedgehog, there are 326 paths you can take to complete the game? Not only that, if you go into the library, each individual path has its own name. It's actually kind of ridiculous. This game famously gives you the choice to be a hero, to be neutral, to be dark, but ultimately with so many different paths, there's so many ridiculous things that happen in this game. We do know that there is one true canon ending to the game where Shadow goes super and defeats Black Doom. However, what about every single thing that happens in between? This is the question that will haunt us forever.